This summative assessment comes at the end of the bullying unit. The New York State standard associated with health education used for this lesson is a safe and healthy environment. Students will acquire the knowledge and ability necessary to create and maintain a safe and healthy environment. The National Health Education Standard used for this lesson is number 2. Students will analyze the influence of family, peers, culture, media, technology, and other factors on health behaviors. The health overarching skill used in this lesson is relationship management with a skills focus on decision making. The functional knowledge area of this lesson is violence prevention. The student learning target is, today I will be respectful of my peers when engaging in group work so I can be safe when dealing with a bullying situation. I will know I have it when I create a role play with a successful upstander. The lesson goals for today are to increase student awareness of bullying prevention strategies by 50% and to engage students in skill practice of upstander qualities. The enduring understandings portions of this lesson includes personal strategies can be learned to develop and enhance healthy behaviors and to avoid, reduce, and cope with unhealthy, risky, or potentially unsafe situations, as well as individuals have a personal responsibility to develop, maintain, and increase safe and healthy behaviors. The essential question for this lesson is, what can we do to change behavior to stop bullying? The guiding questions are, how can we help someone who has been bullied, or how can we promote an anti-bullying climate? Materials needed for this lesson include blue Post-its, pink Post-its, yellow Post-its, green Post-its, 4 role-play situations, a smartboard, YouTube access, the role-play rubric, 30 copies of the situation worksheet, and 30 copies of the video note worksheet. Some adaptations or modifications for students with special needs include a scribe available to students with writing disabilities, enlarged copies of handouts, closed captioning on the YouTube video, teaching aid for students who require one, separate location and copies of the lesson plan and all materials for the TA and student, as well as the evaluation rubric in Spanish for ENL or ELL students. This lesson is 45 minutes long and includes New York State Learning Standards Performance Indicators, New York State Health Education Standard 1C, New York State Health Education Standard 2C, and National Health Education Standard 2.8. Students will take notes on the video, participate in group work, and reflect on what they learned by making a connection with their lives. The functional knowledge areas included in this lesson are Decision Making Intermediate 5, Decision Making Intermediate 6, Relationship Management Intermediate 8, Violence Prevention Intermediate 5, and Violence Prevention Intermediate 6. The assessment information included in this lesson plan are the video notes, situation worksheet, the role play creation, the reflection journal, informal checks for understanding, and the summative assessment is the role play rubric. At the beginning of the lesson, the anticipatory set will last for 5 minutes, and students will come into class, sit at their desks to discover a specific colored Post-it on it. This will inform students of what group they are assigned to. Directions will be posted on the smartboard for the agenda of the class period. The agenda will be 1, physical versus verbal abuse, 2, role play groups, 3, journal. Students will watch the video on YouTube and take notes on the components of physical and verbal bullying as I take attendance. Directions. As you watch the video, write down the components of physical bullying and the components of verbal bullying. After, we will come together as a class and review. I will monitor students as they watch the video and prompt discussion by going over components of physical and verbal bullying. How can we stop both forms of bullying? This assessment will be a formal diagnostic information recall. A problem that could go wrong is students won't raise their hands for responses during discussion. A solution for that problem is to turn participation into a game and give students points for volunteering to share. Whoever ends up with the most points from participation may receive up to 2 extra credit points on a past assignment from the bullying unit. Another problem that could go wrong, students talking or unfocused during the video. A solution for that problem would be to pause the video and ask students to refrain from distracting the rest of the class. How will you check for understanding before moving on? I will walk around the room to make sure all students wrote down the components for physical and verbal assault or abuse. I can ask students to raise their hand if they have all the components written down and assist the students who did not raise their hands. Go over the classroom callback by using a clapping pattern and waiting for the clapping response from students. After the clapping sequence, the students know this means it's time to stop what they're doing and listen to the teacher for further instruction whenever they hear the clapping pattern. The next section of this lesson for new learning will be for 15 minutes long, and this will be the role play formation. Students with green Post-its will sit together. Students with yellow Post-its will sit together. Students with pink Post-its will sit together. Students with blue Post-its will sit together. Each group will receive a different role play situation to dissect. The student worksheet with questions about the role play will be completed within each group. After the worksheet is complete, students will create a role play script relating to the situation they were assigned, including an upstander to assist the victim. Show a role play video recording from health class the year prior. Indicate the group situation they used and check for understanding of the assignment, expectations, etc. This assessment is a formal diagnostic process. A problem that could go wrong is a student in the group is not participating in the activity. A solution for that problem would be to pull the student aside and warn them of jeopardizing their participation grade. Try to suggest a way for the others in the group to engage the student who is left out. Another problem that could go wrong are multiple students are absent, so the groups are uneven. The solution to that would be to assign multiple parts or roles to students to make up for missing ones. For example, the green group only has 2 students present, but there are 4 parts in the script. The 2 students split up the 4 parts and each play 2 different roles for the role play. How will you check for understanding before moving on? I would walk around to each group to ensure all questions on the role play dissection worksheet are completed. For the next part of the lesson, for guided practice, it will engage for about 15 minutes. The students will actually be engaging in the role play performance here. When students are finished with the worksheet, the class will come together and observe the pink and green groups' role plays. After each role play group performs, students will have the opportunity to take notes on the characteristics of each role play and the role play in their health journals. I will ask students to share similarities or differences that they found between the 2 role plays. Ask the groups who worked on the role play's performance what solutions they came up with and how they answered the worksheet questions. This assessment will be a formal summative performance. A problem that can go wrong are that students are not focused when a group is performing. The solution for that problem would be to put the performance on pause and remind everyone of classroom callback. The audience should be respectful by not talking and paying attention to the performance. Another problem that can go wrong is a student doesn't want to perform in front of an audience. The solution would be to offer the role to be played by another student in the group so they can take on more than one role or part in the performance. Remind the students of the class participation rubric and how their grade can be affected. How will you check for understanding before moving on? What did students answer for question 6 on the worksheet? What would we change or not change after watching the role plays by our peers? Students should offer upstander qualities and information on how to safely intervene in a bullying situation. For example, asking an adult or authoritative figure for help. The closing will be about 10 minutes. Think about the 2 role play performances you watched today. Open your health journal and complete a journal entry related to the role plays you saw in class today. Write about a situation that you personally know about or that happened to you that involved verbal bullying. Describe what happened. What did you or other students say? Did any adults see or hear this happen? What did they do or say? What made the situation difficult for you? What would help you to feel more comfortable or more courageous about handling this type of situation? What ideas do you have about how to keep this kind of bullying from happening again in the future? This assessment is a formal, formative information recall assessment. A problem that could go wrong are that students can't think of an authentic experience related to verbal bullying. A solution for that would be students may use an example from a television show or a movie that relates to verbal bullying. If they still can't think of one, they may make up their own situation to dissect in the journal. How will you check for understanding before moving on? Collect journals and read the entries. Homework independent practice. The students will complete the group evaluation slip at home and bring it into the next class. Directions. Students will rate their group members on categories such as sharing workload, cooperation, positive behavior, and performance quality. This assessment is a formal summative process. If a student in my group did not help with the role play situation as much as I would have liked, I might rate them a 2 or 1 instead of a 3 for each category. This is my standards-based role play rubric for the summative assessment for this lesson in the bullying unit. The criteria is listed on the left. There are 3 categories for kids to get points. The total would be out of 100, a score of 100, where students get excellent on all 5 categories. The first criteria is New York State Health Education Standard 1C, where students will demonstrate the necessary knowledge, skills to promote healthy adolescent development. Through their role play, students in an exemplar example, students will implement a successful upstander in their role play that was believable. For the New York State Health Education Standard 2C, students should understand the need for personal involvement in improving the environment. This also goes for the upstander. Students' group worksheet responses directly aligned to the role play created. That will be the exemplar criteria. And the National Health Education Standard 2.8, where students will analyze the influence of family, peers, culture, media, technology, and other factors on health behaviors. The exemplar example would be where the role play shows a clear influence of the bully and the impact they have on the victim, as well as upstander qualities clearly defined through action and what the script of the upstander includes. 2 last sections for this rubric that are not standards-based are preparation for students being on task for all of the planning time and developing a well-thought-out skit, as well as the presentation criteria where students will make a strong connection to the situation and make the audience believe it was authentic or real.